Today I am joined with the Executive Director of the BEDC, Ms. Erica Smith. I have the distinct pleasure of standing here before you today to launch the National Entrepreneurship Strategy, the Bermuda Entrepreneurship Blueprint, unleashing innovation, empowering opportunity. This release of our strategy today is fitting because today we are also celebrating Economic Development Week. Strong economies are built intentionally. At their core are new businesses that start and survive, and existing businesses that grow and adapt. This strategy is designed to strengthen both. Bermuda has always had a strong entrepreneurial spirit. Across our island, individuals have taken risks to build businesses of all kinds, but too often they have faced unnecessary barriers such as high incorporation costs, complex regulations, limited financing, and gaps in digital tools and skills development. Today, we begin to address those challenges. Bermuda's Economic Development Strategy identifies entrepreneurship and small business development as a core pillar for driving a more resilient, diversified, and inclusive economy. Central to this vision is the implementation of a national entrepreneurship strategy, a targeted framework designed to optimize the island's entrepreneurial ecosystem by addressing critical barriers. The strategy was developed in partnership with the Bermuda Economic Development Corporation, with input from over 150 stakeholders across business, education, and the community. The strategic focus ensures Bermudian entrepreneurs are not only seen as secondary economic engines, but as the primary backbone of national growth. The strategy sets out a 5-year plan focused on 5 priorities: making our laws and regulations work for local entrepreneurs, building skills and entrepreneurial mindset from the classroom upward, embracing technology and innovation, expanding access to financing, and creating a connected, celebrated entrepreneurial community across the entire island. The strategy also sets out a 3-phase implementation plan. Success will mean more businesses starting and striving, more Bermudians choosing entrepreneurship, and more local companies competing globally. We are building a strong foundation. In 2024, over $2.2 million was invested through BEDC, supporting more than 600 entrepreneurs, financing 24 businesses, and maintaining high satisfaction rates. These results show that targeted support works. This strategy scales that impact. Accountability is central. As a result, a dedicated steering committee will oversee implementation, track performance, and report publicly on progress. Entrepreneurship is a national asset. With over a quarter of Bermudians planning to start a business in the coming years, our responsibility is clear: to ensure they are supported to succeed. Today, we are laying the foundation. The Bermuda Entrepreneurship Blueprint is our commitment to every entrepreneur, present and future, that Bermuda is ready to support your ambition. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Hayward. It is a genuine honor to follow the minister's remarks and to stand here today as we launch the Bermuda Entrepreneurship Blueprint, Bermuda's first national entrepreneurship strategy. As the minister noted, the timing of this launch is deeply fitting. This is Bermuda's Economic Development Week, a moment to reflect on the intentional work that goes into building strong, resilient economies. And at BEDC, intentional work in support of Bermuda's entrepreneurs is exactly what we do every single day. BDC exists for one purpose: to support the growth and success of Bermuda's entrepreneurs and local businesses. We provide financial assistance, technical advice, mentorship, and education. We administer Bermuda's 4 economic empowerment zones in Hamilton, Somerset, and St. George's, which have expanded support capacity from 8 to 28 businesses, providing affordable workshops, workspaces, and advisory services to entrepreneurs at the early stage of the journey through our Enterprise Bermuda Incubator Program. We currently support just under 2,700 registered entrepreneurs across 23 sectors, from wholesale and retail trades to art and entertainment, accommodation and food services, and health and social work. These are the men and women who are the backbone of Bermuda's domestic economy. This blueprint was not written in a ministry office, although it involved the minister and the ministry itself. It was actually built from the ground up through 4 stakeholder focus groups, 2 surveys generating responses, workshops with our board of directors and the full BDC team, the minister, the permanent secretary, and a review process involving more than 150 individuals from across Bermuda's entrepreneurial ecosystem. Through the process, we heard from entrepreneurs about what is holding them back. We heard from educators about the skills that are missing in entrepreneurship. We heard from bankers about where the friction lies. We heard from technology leaders about the infrastructure that is needed. And we heard consistently the same message. The ambition is here, the talent is here on our island, but what has been missing is a coherent, coordinated system of support. The blueprint that has been developed provides and is grounded in the internationally recognized UNCTAD entrepreneurship policy framework, drawing on the best practice from Singapore, Estonia, the Netherlands, Finland, Ireland, the United Kingdom, Switzerland, and the United States, while remaining firmly focused on Bermuda's unique characteristics, circumstances, and strengths. Let me speak to some of the specific initiatives in this strategy and what they will mean in practice. In phase 1, the next 18 months, one of our most important priorities is the one-stop hub, business hub. Today, we know that incorporating a business in Bermuda can take up to 12 weeks. It can cost up to $9,000 and requires interactions with 3 to 6 different entities and government departments. As a result, we know that 82% of entrepreneurs in this country remain unincorporated. These are the sole proprietors, the single, the partners, the small businesses. And this leaves them personally exposed and making it harder for government to support them in some way, shape, or form. The One-Stop Business Hub will change that, drawing on a streamlined model of onboarding entrepreneurs already piloted here in Bermuda, and it will provide a single digital portal and in-person concierge where entrepreneurs can register, get guidance, and complete filings in one place. BDC will be the central partner in making this a reality. We, as always, are committed to working alongside the government to embed entrepreneurship at all levels in entrepreneurship, in education, building on the outstanding work already being done by entities such as the Youth Entrepreneurship Initiative Bermuda, Skillscraft Bermuda, and of course our own youth entrepreneurship programs such as Summer Student Entrepreneurship Program and others. Fundamentally, we want every young Bermudian to see entrepreneurship as a legitimate, exciting, and supported career path, not just a side hustle. And partners such as Ignite Bermuda's results show that what is possible, as they themselves have also supported over 600 entrepreneurs over the last 5 years, with 78 of their alumni ventures still active 2 years after the program completion. That is the type of outcome that we want to see embedded in our ecosystem. In phase 2, which is years 1 to 3, the proposed Bermuda Innovation and Scale-Up Fund is a game changer. Access to startup and growth capital is one of the greatest barriers facing local MSMEs. Traditional banking channels are cautious, and alternative financing options are limited. The fund, which we envision as a public-private partnership seeded by government and other partners, matched by the private sector, from co-investment from insurers, reinsurers, and institutional investors, will close this financing gap. It will provide both a mix of equity and debt financing. It will be managed professionally, and it will be targeted at companies and firms with traction and proven demand. For the first time, we envision through this national entrepreneurship strategy that Bermuda's entrepreneurs will have access to the kind of patient, growth-oriented capital that is available to their counterparts in other jurisdictions. We are also excited about broadening modern financing options, including a regulatory framework from peer-to-peer lending to crowdfunding, which is not available currently in Bermuda. These tools, among others, allow entrepreneurs to raise capital directly from citizens and the diaspora, channeling community investment into community businesses in a structured, regulated way. Also in phase 2, we envision hosting Bermuda's first flagship international entrepreneurship event, building on BDC's own proven convening powered through Global Entrepreneurship Week and the Digital Finance Forum, where we really can put Bermuda on the global map as a destination for innovation and investment. And then in phase 3, which is years 3 to 5, the strategy envisions entrepreneurship zones embedded on top of the current economic empowerment zones in Hamilton, Somerset, St. George's, and Dockyard, and in the West. Building on our existing EZ incubator hubs to create a graduation pathway for firms moving from incubation into growth. And then alongside this is an export readiness program with advanced digital infrastructure and a national government gateway, which will position Bermudian entrepreneurs to compete not just here at home, but internationally. I want to say something very clearly that BDC cannot deliver this strategy alone, and hence why we are grateful for the support and the partnership from the minister and the ministry. I think it's important to say that we are not expected to deliver this on our own. This is a whole ecosystem endeavor. It requires the government as an enabler and funder. It requires the private sector, banks, insurers, technology companies, professional service firms as partners and co-investors. It requires educators, mentors, community organizations, and it requires, obviously, the entrepreneurs themselves, who must engage with the support on offer and hold us accountable for delivering it. The minister spoke about a steering committee. This will ultimately be the engine of that accountability, an independent cross-sector body that will track progress against a published KPI framework and report publicly on what is working and what is not. And we see BDC as playing an active role in that governance structure and will obviously report transparently on a delivery against the strategy commitments. Just closing in a few words, if you have neither, ultimately, as an entrepreneur, we want to hear from you. If you have a business that is struggling, please come and talk to us. If you're thinking about taking a leap but not sure where to start, our doors are always open, in person, online, and through our hubs across the island. The Bermuda Entrepreneurship Blueprint, our island's first national entrepreneurship strategy, I'm really proud to say that, our first, is your blueprint, entrepreneurs. It was written with you in mind, and its success will be measured by your success. By the businesses that start and survive, by the jobs that are created, by the young Bermudians who choose entrepreneurship because they can see a clear path forward. We at the Bermuda Economic Development Corporation are fully committed to this strategy, and we are absolutely excited about it. Not as a document, but as a living program of work. We are committed to adapting as the ecosystem evolves, report honestly on what we are achieving, and remain relentlessly focused on the outcomes that matter. Bermuda's entrepreneurial spirit has always been here, and then today we are building the ecosystem it deserves. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister and Executive Director. At this time, we welcome questions from members of the media.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Minister and Ms. Smith. I imagine a lot of answers are going to be right there in the blueprint itself. You were talking about incorporation costs, and I was hoping to hear a bit more about that. Are we looking at cutting those costs or changing the incorporation process just to make it easier for these small entities to get off the ground? I think you said 82% of them just prefer not to go through that. So I guess what does it take to get that 82% signed up?
And so it is about streamlining the process, but also creating a one-stop facility where they can come and they can fill out all the registration needs. Right now, incorporation costs exceed $6,000 for small businesses. In other jurisdictions, they can register the business for underneath $100. And so that just shows you this disparity in Bermuda's economy versus in other areas. And if we're serious about supporting entrepreneurs, then we cannot create a barrier at the first step.
And when we talk about a hub, so presumably that's a physical location or somewhere online or?
Most definitely. And so the hub would be the BEDC, facilities, but you know that BEDC also has satellite locations. And so it won't necessarily mean that there's one location where one can go and register it, but it means that once one registers at that location, then the registration will ensure that their information is passed on to all other relevant agencies as well.
And just to be clear, so we've heard about the strategy and the blueprint, that they're one and the same, are they?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And in terms of, the difficulty people have had in getting financing for the smaller businesses, I guess what was the input of the banks in all of this?
And so that was part of the challenge. Persons having very full developed business plans in order to obtain funding. There not being the appropriate facilities to connect them with venture funding as well. And so these are the bridges that we're trying to close as best as we possible. How we support persons with grant funding from alternative means so that they can have access to the funding required to scale their business and grow.
I guess last one from me. You mentioned crowdfunding. I've never done it, but it's just something that I assume we always had in Bermuda, and we don't. Maybe could you expand a bit on, to people who might not be familiar with that term, what that might look like on a Bermuda scale and how quickly we could make that happen?
Sure. So currently, from the regulation point of view, we don't have supporting legislation that allows crowdfunding to take place. So there are ecosystems or setups and processes in other jurisdictions that facilitates crowdfunding. I think the challenge becomes reconciling crowdfunding from an entrepreneurship and business formation point of view versus a nonprofit and charitable. Because currently there is legislation that supports charities raising funds in some way, shape, or form, but it doesn't have a similar process for entrepreneurs to do so. And so there have been some challenges and some conflicts in the past from entrepreneurs to do that and use that as a form for raising funds.
And just for anybody listening who might not know what crowdfunding is, I mean, it sounds like you can pretty much work it out, but maybe.
Sure. So crowdfunding is the ability to raise funds directly from promoting your business or business venture or product or service directly to the public. And so there are platforms that currently exist outside Bermuda that allows people to do that. Kickstarter is one. But the issue is that as an entrepreneur list on one of those platforms, the ability for that money that they raise to be transferred into Bermuda's ecosystem is a challenge.
Got it. Oh, actually, and one last one. I just remembered this. I think this came up in the House maybe last year when you were talking about it, Minister. So PricewaterhouseCoopers helped put this together. What was their role in this again? You mentioned it in the House.
So we put the development out for RFP, and we did work with Pricewaterhouse to develop the strategy. They would have been doing the stakeholder engagement on behalf of the government and the BEDC, and then also utilizing the framework that we had set, which is the UAM framework, to develop the strategy in alignment with those pillars.
Got it. Okay, thanks very much. Thanks.
Good afternoon, Minister and Ms. Smith. Elisa Bernardo with Bermuda Broadcasting. Just going back to the One-Stop Business Hub, which looks like one of the first action items of the strategy, when can the public expect it to be operational?
Okay, and so we had 3 phases. The first phase of the strategy is 18 months, and so we are seeking to activate that one-stop business hub within the first 18 months from launch, and so 18 months from now.
Okay, great. And Minister, you said success from the strategy means more businesses starting and thriving. Just how many businesses are you hoping the strategy will support or even create?
Well, right now we have roughly around 2,700 small businesses in this entrepreneurial space. We looked at the survey and it said that a quarter of the population has interest in actually starting entrepreneurial venture. And so if we look at just a percentage of that, or even half of that, there's persons that have desire. If we can move the desires from ambition into concept, I think we will be doing a good job on behalf of the country as pertains to progressing these initiatives.
Understood. And you also noted that the 5-year plan will touch on skills building from the classroom level. How does the strategy look to engage Bermuda's youth?
So the entrepreneurial ecosystem and the entrepreneurial journey has to begin within our school system. And so that is a key component in terms of ensuring that we begin to integrate entrepreneurship into our school curriculum. We do things from a BDC standpoint, such as the Summer Student Entrepreneurial Program, where we encourage young persons to become vendors and take their concepts into real-world experiences. And we've seen some success out of that particular program. So we know our young people have the appetite, we know they have the skill sets, but they just simply need a nurturing environment, and that's what we aim to do, create a nurturing environment, but also empower them from a financial standpoint, understanding business, and then also understand how to navigate the entrepreneurial roadmap.
Understood. And how has the strategy been funded?
So the Ministry of Economy and Labor was the primary funder of the strategy. Moving forward, the initiatives will be co-funded from the BEDC and the Bermuda government.
Okay. And also just a question for Ms. Smith, if I may. You cited the consultation that went into the strategy and that you heard directly from entrepreneurs about, what is holding them back. What would you say are some of the greatest challenges facing Bermuda's entrepreneurs right now that this strategy seeks to address?
So first and foremost, access to funding and financing of entrepreneurial ventures from ideation through to startup, through to scaling. We have very little variety of funding. Currently, most funding in Bermuda is debt financing. There is a little bit of equity, but in other ecosystems, there is a range. So debt, equity, crowdfunding, peer-to-peer lending, as well as grant or mixed hybrid. So we want to be able to expand that and have products that solve and serve entrepreneurs through every stage of their business venture. Mm-hmm. The second one is it is expensive to start a business in Bermuda as a startup, and then it is a complex process. So we're trying to remove the red tape around starting a business, and hence why the one-stop hub concept and idea is tangible, because if we can collect the information from an entrepreneur, then we can distribute all of that information to the various entities that they need to register with in order to be successful. Also, how do we bring the cost down of starting a business? And this is what the minister was referring to with regard to incorporation. The vast majority of sole proprietors, these are businesses that don't have a formal business structure. So they're not a LLC, they're not an incorporated business. One of the reasons why that happens is because it is expensive and a time-consuming process to go through that. And so how do we then bring that cost down and the timeline down? And also, can there be different tier structures based on where you are in your business? The cost for a startup business should not be the same for an existing business or in an industry that has a higher revenue. So how do we normalize that in order to make it more accessible? Because right now, those sole proprietors are held liable for any issues that happen with regard to their business because they have no formal separation between themselves and their business.
Understood. Thank you so much for your remarks.
You're welcome.
Okay, and with that, there are no further questions. Minister, you want to have any closing remarks you'd like to sum it all up?
Certainly, I'm happy to celebrate Economic Development Week, number one, but number two, we're happy to reach this milestone where we're able to present Bermuda's first national economic entrepreneurship strategy. This strategy will ensure that we provide our entrepreneurial ecosystem that allows our entrepreneurs to thrive.
Thank you, Minister, and that concludes the press conference. Thank you all for joining us, and have a great day.
Bermuda Live on YouTube. Subscribe now.